Well, HD Flea, week one is down with releasing our film. Tell me, what is the highlight of this week from hearing from the people?
Well,
Fletch, you got a good one. I know you
I
do,
do
Fletch.
have I have a good story, and the day we released the film. So, guys, if you don't know this, we released a film, um, and I walked over and I was hanging with my grandma, Nan, and I'm like, Nan, you want to watch a movie? She goes, sure. So I put it on the TV for her, and she looked at me within like the first couple seconds. She's like, "You made this movie?" I'm like, "Yeah." And the movie plays, and at the end, I'm like looking in the TV room, and I see Nan's head, and it's kind of drooped to one side. I'm like, oh gosh, she fell asleep in the movie, and starting to get in my head. I'm like, dang it, this is a sleeper. We made a sleeper, and then I go in, and she's crying, and her eyes were just full of these lakes. And I go, Dan, and I'm like, what's going on? She goes, that movie I felt like was just full of hope.
Mm.
And it was really cool because I think anytime there's a plot twist, and I went in there thinking I was going to wake her up, and I'm like, where'd you fall asleep in the movie? And then just seeing her um, really be moved by the film, it was cool. So it was probably the highlight of my week thus far in terms of releasing this film.
Hmm.
Nice.
Yeah,
And
that's
she's
already.
in it. Did she recognize her photo or no?
No, I had to stop it. I go, Nan, do you see who that is? She goes, no, but that's one attractive woman. I go,
Oh,
Nan, that's you. She goes, no, it isn't. And I couldn't really zoom in. I go, yes, it is. She goes, where was I? I go, Nan, you were in Uganda. She goes, gosh, I love that place.
that's the most Nan interaction I've ever heard. Oh, that's awesome. I love how just in releasing a project like this, and obviously, we've talked about it for several years now, and um, told people we were working on it. I just love the energy around releasing something and the people that end up reaching out, congratulating, but also just being like, I can't wait to watch it. And I think because we released it on we announced it on a Wednesday, most people are watching this weekend. So I'm looking forward to more of those coming in and just being able to hear how it touches people, and how it moves people, and to just let it be what it's going to be in the world. And I think Fletch, you said that this week, it's there's a time we get to judge it, and that's when we're making it, and we did a lot of that. And there's a time where we get to stop judging it and allow other people to feel what they want to feel and to have their own experience with it. And that's the beautiful thing of creative work. So I'm just excited to have it out there.
Yeah.
Fletch, one of my top 10 favorite people is your mom, but one of my top three favorite people is your Nan. And I think one of my favorite, every time I think of your Nan, I think of when Henry's mom walked in on her in the bedroom on the floor and she just freaks out. But it's because your Nan sleeps on the ground by choice.
Well, yeah, Rebecca, Mama D thought that Nan was dead. And
We're gonna put the photo, flash the photo here,
Yeah.
because this photo is incredible.
And the thing is, for me, it's like, just another person thinking she's dead, but she's not. She is so severely in touch with the ground that it is just mimicking what we have seen on, NCIS and CSI as death. And so and so when HD's mom walked in for that stent, she definitely was caught off guard. But yes, I've seen her do that so many times to people where it's become just, oh, yep, she got another one.
Well, and then your mom and Henry's mom together are just, it's maybe the funniest duo I've ever interacted with, especially when we were on tour. And gosh, remember Henry, that one night your mom was so upset over the AC in the venue. And Leland was like firing her up as well and was like, yeah, this is ridiculous.
Well, that's the thing. It's like they get together most of the times when we're releasing a project. And so when we had the premiere for this film, you know, we did the premiere in Charlotte, and so we're trying to bring all of the families and friends together. And so there's such a heightened energy around it all. And so my mom's got main character energy. HD's mom got main character energy, and they're just like go go go. So you throw them both in the same room together, and they're just like a quadruple espresso, just making stuff happen.
Very true. And I can't even imagine if we added Mackenzie's mom to the mix. But
Oh my gosh.
the fact that we kind of all are middle children to some degree with a main character mom really says something about why the three of us have gotten so close.
And so in our feelings too.
Relatability.
All right, you guys ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Yeah, head first.
It's gonna be alright.
If you can give your community permission, especially with men, it can go a long way.
I feel it in my heart.
And only from that place of peace can a relationship truly be reconciled.
When I saw it first,
The sun is shining bright.
but if I stop and create a little space, then there's that room for a response. Then I can actually check in with myself.
It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. Let it go, carry on. Let it go, carry on.
Guys, welcome back to Dudes with Feelings. We are dudes and we have feelings. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the fact that we just released a documentary film. And in the documentary film, we follow these three best friends as they overcome their own pain and then put on a creative arts festival. So we're going to be covering how to, or really their pain into purpose and pain into power, and how your pain can serve you on your journey. So using storytelling and specifically their story as a model and a point to kind of riff on with this.
Well said, Flea. Yeah, I feel like this is a big. I mean, it's a huge topic. It's a big theme. I think we maybe all have like micro versions of this in our own lives, where like something painful that seemed really dark or grim ended up becoming something beautiful, and maybe something's already coming up for you guys. But before we even get too deep into the larger story, I'm excited to share with you guys kind of a little bit about this specific story that is the documentary we made Beyond the Beat, why we felt so impassioned to tell this story. And it does have a lot to do with this overcoming adversity and pain. And I think what we saw was the purpose, right? We saw this incredible creative arts festival coming up in this unlikely place in northern Uganda after 2 decades of civil war. And I don't even think we knew too much about the war when we first heard about the festival, Fletch, but we saw that there was something beautiful happening. What we uncovered since has been this just heart-wrenching story of three best friends who each suffered in their own way to find this light within them, to band together to create this beautiful thing. And Fletch, can you maybe just like back us up a little bit? Let's like tell the story on how this came to be. How did we find this creative arts festival? How do we end up in Uganda?
That's actually one of the leading questions I get when I'm talking to people about the project was, how did you guys hear about Beyond the Beat? How did you guys hear about this creative arts festival? And if I were to back up, it really happened due to the first film we were working on, Blue Marble Sky, when we were following this traveling love wizard down the east coast of Africa. And he connected with Akurut George, who was teaching yoga and dance all throughout Uganda. And learning more about Akurut, his story, and just spending time with him, I think he had such a profound impact on us. And we created this bond with him that when we went back to the States, we just kept in communication with him. And so when he told us about the Beyond the Beat, that quickly turned into, hey, do you guys want to come over and um, participate and be a part of this? And so it was something for us where we felt where it went from, one project to the next, and it was very seamless. Um,
Yeah, and I just want to add in the wrinkle of, well, for one, the first time that we saw Kuru teach yoga, I could just speak for myself here. I believe it's a similar story for you, Fletch, but there was something that like moved within me when I watched this guy teach yoga in a community center in this slum village in Kampala, Uganda. 50 women, mostly terminally ill with pancreatic or with some version of cancer, or HIV/AIDS, and this guy was able to come in and share something that in that moment created this immediate sense of healing and joy in that space. And it moved me. And I remember feeling like I want to be able to offer this to my community. I want to be able to offer something that is just so objectively good and life-giving. And Akuru really inspired me. And so when I went back, I started looking for teacher training, started talking to Fletch, and he was on the same page. And within months of returning from that first trip and meeting a Kuru, Fletch and I decided we wanted to teach. And so we enrolled in teacher training and went on this journey. And part of that teacher training journey was we had to create a community event. And so Fletch and I sat our whole yoga teacher training group down. It was 17 people. Shout out cohort 16. And we just pitched them on this project. It had to have some philanthropic attachment to the event, and we told them about Akuru. We told them about this event Beyond the Beat and how they were really trying to raise money for this creative arts festival in northern Uganda. And I don't know if we even knew that much about it at the time. We had seen Coney 2012, so we knew a little bit about the war and we had looked more into it. But I think we really just believed in Akuru, and we knew if he was doing it, it must be impactful and powerful. And so we pitched the whole group, and they rallied behind us. And we ended up putting on this really cool community event in Charlotte that was intended to raise money for Beyond the Beat. And that money that the cohort of our yoga teacher training raised ended up being what actually funded the festival and allowed that festival to happen in the way that it did. And amazingly, too, a couple people from our yoga teacher training group were so inspired they wanted to come with us on the journey. So they're briefly seen in the film as well. I just think it's such a cool side story as to what it really meant for this to all happen. It took an entire community rallying around and believing and supporting another community on the other side of the world that they never have and likely would never will get to meet.
and really, Beyond the Beat, to paint the picture a little bit more, it's a full day event, and as it's grown into having workshops for artists to further their craft. But Beyond the Beat is really focused for the youth. It's focused for giving them a platform to be seen, to be heard. And while there is a dance competition, it's really under this umbrella of expression, under the umbrella of play. And so kids from all over the region, all over the north of Uganda, will find a way to come to Kitgum for this event. And some kids, as we came to find out, they hold this day of Beyond the Beat, of the Arts Festival, above Christmas, above their birthdays, because it's just, there's so much energy and joy around this single day. And so being able to, witness this event and then capture it and then bring it back over to a Western audience was just so eye opening to see how, with the little resources they had, they could still put on such an impactful event for the community and for the youth over there.
Mm-hmm. So that's basically what we knew going into it. We knew there was an event. That's what McKenzie knew too. He knew he was going to be editing something that we were going to go over and shoot. I mean, do you remember anything else about it before we launched out on the trip, McKenzie?
Well, you guys launched right when we finished the East Coast tour of Blue Marble Sky, because you guys flew right out of New York, right? And
Mm-hmm.
gosh, I just remember for the 2.5 weeks you guys were gone, not hearing from you guys very much, and both of your mothers, speak of which, were just messaging me the entire time, like, "Have you heard from?" And like, "Nope, haven't heard from them." Like, "We're getting worried. We haven't heard from them in a week." And um, so that was my Beyond the Beat.
Yeah, McKenzie had no idea what was going on, I guess, behind the scenes. But this was just, it was like a gift that kept giving it in terms of the story of it. Because I think we knew when something this beautiful emerges, there's always a story to it. We didn't fully understand what that story was when we went over there. Obviously, we knew it was in a part of the world that was considered one of the most impoverished areas globally. We knew it's an area that had undergone a lot of trauma related to the war that had happened there, the Civil War, where Joseph Kony was. We knew that he was involved in creating this army of child soldiers, and that was happening right around Kitgum, where Beyond the Beat was, and that was obviously closely related. But the truth is, we didn't even have enough time to fully launch into a pre-production or figure this all out, because we were on this tour, and this all came together really quickly, kind of within a month to 2 months, and before we knew it, we were over there. And so a lot of this was starting to piece together. Man, what, like, wow, this event means more than we thought, and the likelihood that this event would happen just seemed more and more miraculous as we learned more about both the people that put it on, and the context of northern Uganda and the history of the region, as to why this event holds so much weight.
And I think HD, I remember when we got over there, and you know, they're very long days we were filming. And you could tell that through our eyes, and you could also tell that through our skin, because our skin was getting burnt to a crisp. And I remember there was just one day in particular we looked at each other, and we're getting really frustrated because we don't know what the story is yet, and we're just trying so hard to figure out, like, what is the story, because this is guerrilla filmmaking at its finest, right? We're functioning off of a skeleton crew of two, a very minimal budget, um, and improvisation is, you know, is our greatest teacher, foe, and friend all at the same time. And so the story is us trying to, or the story is really kind of running away from us, and we're trying to catch it. And I remember it was bugging you so much, and because you felt like the missing piece of this story was understanding message and understanding his story. Talk a little bit about what that was like for you, and maybe how we were able to formulate a relationship with him.
Hmm. Yeah, so just for context, there's three main characters in Beyond the Beat. One of them is a Kurut who we spoke to. Another is Totem, who actually was one of Akurut's friends who we met on our first trip to Uganda. So we knew two out of the three founders. The third founder, when we first got there, wasn't there, and his name was Message, and we kept hearing all about him. So, we'd hear you say, "I'm here because Message inspired me," and Message this and Message that, and we hadn't met him. So he was running a little late because he was coming from another event. And so when he arrived, it was just immediately obvious that this guy carries a presence unlike anyone I'd ever been around. His ability to communicate what he felt inside, and why he does what he does was remarkable. I remember the first interview we got with him at the youth center, and his ability to speak, and all of those things combined, it just became very clear to me this guy has a story to tell, and we need to hear it. And he's a key piece to what we're talking about here in this story we're wanting to tell. But he was a hard guy to kind of crack open. You could get him to say the inspirational statements, but what I think we were craving was, hey, what makes you move? What motivates you to do this? Where do you come from? And like, why do you do this? And so those were things that required us to build trust with him. And I think we had some of that trust with the Kurut and with Totem, but we didn't have it with Message. And we didn't have that long to build it. And in the heat of this too, they're planning this event, and we're trying to schedule interviews and go to their homes and are being a bit intrusive, obviously trying to be really sensitive to the fact that they're doing this event, and they're wanting us to be there. Of course, they're excited we're there, but we're trying to not get in their way. And Message, especially being such a natural leader, was just all over the place. And so trying to track him down and have those moments where we felt like we could build trust. And you're right, it was starting to get to me, because I felt like if we didn't get this guy's story, we're missing the story. We don't have the story. And it's amazing because it took until really after Beyond the Beat, after the event. We got there about 5 days before Beyond the Beat. And we were able to get the interview with a Kurut, visit his hometown with Totem, and we built those relationships. But it took until the day after Beyond the Beat where Message was able to kind of slow down and take a breath. And we finally got that quality time with him, and we got to see and be seen by him. And I felt that the trust started to be built, that when we actually went to Gulu with Message and visited his home and he invited us into his home, there was a real relationship there formed that allowed him to really authentically share his story, and to break down the walls, to be vulnerable, to um, to go to a place where I know it was not easy or wasn't comfortable. But what it created is what I believe is the most powerful moment in the film, and really one of the most remarkable stories I've ever had the privilege of telling, especially when it came to learning that he had been abducted into Kony's army as a child soldier. And this is something we didn't know for the first week of knowing this guy. We had no idea that he had been a child soldier. And it was mind blowing to learn that. And you're right, Fletch, like Message's story is something that I think about weekly, if not daily, because he is such a um, rich presence and person in this world. And I feel just so grateful that we got to share that with him and share his story.
And I think you're right on with the trust factor. And I think that was something that you can't force, right? Especially because the art of documentary film is you're dealing with real life people and their real life stories. And so for us, it was such like this balancing act of, wanting to do our jobs and go over there and be great storytellers and filmmakers, but also being good humans and respecting space and boundaries and how people naturally open up and formulate that trust. We're coming into their environment, their space, so being respectful guests is something that I think takes time. And when he did open up, I remember having this full body sensation of just like, whoa, this just added so much depth to the story because he's such a deep guy. And so now the film and the story as a whole just got so much deeper because this guy just allowed us to see the depths of his soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that's so challenging um, for us to do in our relationships is, be willing to first see ourselves in that way and then be able to express that to other people. Let alone express it on film and on tape. And
Yeah.
so the fact that he, gave himself permission and then was able to sink in the hut and just go to that level, I think created such a moment of impact.
Mm.
Um, for this film and for us as humans too, you know?
Yeah, and I'm curious. I mean, and maybe you can comment on this, McKenzie. Like, what? And if you've seen the film, you know what we're talking about. There's this moment where he's crying in his hut. He's talking about this hole in the hut that his brother sleeps in, and he's thinking about how it gets filled up with rainwater and just how crushing that is to him. This is someone who experienced so much in his life that would have hardened him to life. So much, like his parents uh, were largely abusive, like not present. He lived on the street. He um, never had any means. He was having to steal for food. And then he was abducted as a child soldier, rejected when he returned. All of these bad things that would have hardened him. But what I saw in that moment was someone whose heart was soft. Like he had managed to keep this immense amount of love, and his life is an expression of that. He still lives in service. He gives back. He seeks to inspire youth. And what is it that allows men to get to the point in which they can be vulnerable in that way, even if they've gone through pain? They're able to step in and show a side of themselves that may be traditionally described as weak.
You have to first understand what the opposite of that is. Most men focus on the results and focus their value on the results, meaning they want to be wealthy, they want to have freedom, they want to have this feeling of power, and um, they want to feel as though they're able to provide. They want to present security for people in their lives. Those are all results. Those are all outcomes. But what Jeffrey tapped into was the key to understanding purpose in life, which is two fundamental concepts. One of which is he's not asking what the result needs to be or what the result is in his desires. He's asking, what's my mission? What am I doing to help the world? Rather than sitting there going, how can I make $1 million this year? How can I buy that car I want? He's not thinking about that at all. He's thinking about the mission. And I think he's thinking about the mission because he understands the other fundamental truth, which is his pains, his struggles, the trauma he's experienced in life is happening and has happened for him, not to him. And it happened for him so that he can shape his mission in life, so that he can help those other men, those other boys who are struggling with creativity. And I think it's so easy to get trapped in the mindset of my wife is leaving me, I got cheated on, all these horrible things have happened to me, and my job is to just kind of get through it and try to be happier. But what Jeffrey understands is the fundamental truth, which is these things happened for me so that I can find purpose.
Well said. Yeah, and I think that theme really does emerge in all three of their stories. As I know Karut as well, being essentially left by his mom when he was 8, forced to fend for himself and his younger brother for a year and a half before his mom returned and eventually brought him to meet his dad, who he never met at 10 years old. Having to experience for Totem as well, like being put in jail by his dad, but having to experience the loss of family members and to live in a region that was tormented by war, where people were being put in these really government-run concentration camps. And Totem spent time there where they were starving all the time. There was horrible conditions in these camps, and we talk about in the film that it's expected nearly 1 million people died in these camps. That's insane. Like 90% of the population of Acholi land, the northern region, was displaced during this war. And so there was some of this stuff in the making of this film, especially as we got into the history and really trying to deeply understand what was happening during the war, where I just remember we'd have to look at each other and be like, I can't even imagine. Like, I'm sitting here trying, and I can't imagine what that would have been like to be in one of those camps, or to be a young kid who's taken from their homes and forced into an army and given a gun at age 6, 8, uh, told to, I mean, horrible things, guys, like to murder your best friend, to murder your family. Like, the stories that we heard through the making of this is humanity at its absolute worst in moments. And the trauma, I mean, we can't compare trauma because suffering's experienced the same way regardless of where we are and who we are. But when it comes to the degree of pain and suffering, what these three guys experience and what the region of Acholi land in northern Uganda experienced is just beyond my comprehension. And I think for me, like, the most beautiful thing about this is that something beautiful emerged from the ashes. And this event is such an expression of that. It's not the only thing beautiful that emerged from that, but it's an expression of what it can mean when we actually choose to see that our pain is for us. Like you said, McKenzie, that it's actually it's trying to guide us towards our true purpose. And these three guys felt that so convictingly. They did not feel sorry for themselves at all. There was no victim mindset. And it convicted a lot of parts of me that I think was maybe feeling sorry for myself at that point in my life, or like feeling like the world wasn't for me. And if these guys can see that trauma and actually flip that and turn the story and see that that's part of their purpose, and that drives them and motivates them to go out and serve and to change the world, then something in me feels like, well, I can do that too. And I think all of us can do that in our own way.
Yeah, I feel like there is such a heaviness around a lot of subjects over there, um, that, whether it came through going and diving into the history and knowing what had happened in the region, or just hearing stories, there was so much weight to stuff that was being talked about. And to see this festival be such a day of levity, right, of just lightness, um, was beautiful. And to hear and see how it's not only inspiring, but it's creating these ripples all throughout people's lives, and that being such a beautiful and inspiring thing to capture. um, but that, you know, we came back, I think, struggled so many times with the idea of the fact that we're able to, sit in a room that has a TV, that has AC, and, just the idea of being able to talk about these topics with fresh water in our hands, and being in a area that we can express ourselves freely. Like, it became very tough, at times, to kind of navigate what they had gone through, what they were going through, and then just us being privileged to live where we live. Um, can one of you guys kind of talk about that, and how maybe that came up for you or us as a team when we were editing this project?
I think it goes along one of the criticisms I've heard from people who have not watched the film, um, which is, oh, of course, you're doing a story about three guys in Africa who experienced horrible things. Like, that's just a pity fest. Um, but again, I think what made me buy into the project so much was this simple truth that we aren't sharing these stories to pity these boys. Um, we're not sharing the story to make you feel guilty for being in a Western culture, um, and to have air conditioning and all these things. That was not the mission of the film. The mission of the film was to remove any excuses you have for not being creative and for not finding purpose through your pain. These were extreme examples in extreme circumstances. But now, how can you apply that same concept into your own life, where you look at some of the things that are happening for you and you don't sit there and go, dang, there are people out there who are a lot worse than me, but you sit there and go, wow, a Kurut message and totem had nothing stand in their way, and they had so much pain and tribulations to go through to get there, to find the purpose and meaning into their lives. And by us taking that road and finding our purpose, finding our meaning, finding our mission through our pain, we're actually we're actually successfully creating the impact that Message Totem and a Kurut intended, which was, we want to inspire the youth. We want to inspire everyone out there to get creative, to find their path in life despite their pain. And that's what I think was so powerful about their message, is we take you to this extreme example. And now how do you apply that in your life? I think that's what made me so excited about the film, because I think it's so easy to make a pity piece about certain difficult things that happen in other parts of the globe. And this one was just rooted in hope, like what Nan said, Fletch. It's like I just felt so hopeful.
Yeah,
and that's what I think people want to get away from this film.
Yeah. I think I do think it does that. I think that message of hope was really important from the beginning. And to be honest, coming back was a weird transition back. Like, I just remember being super down. Like, it wasn't you come back from vacation and you're like, that was nice. Like, I feel rested and peaceful. And it was like, I am rethinking and refiltering a lot of my life, seeing things differently, certainly just having to confront different areas. And it just took a while to process. And I remember my family, even like 6 months later, was like, we haven't heard anything about your trip to Uganda, because I wasn't really sure how to talk about it. And I think in many ways, this film was the turning the pain of what I felt like I experienced and kind of took on over there, and putting that into something that hopefully could inspire someone else. And, so I think there's a lot of that, Fletch. And we were really sensitive to the fact of being white filmmakers telling a predominantly Black story, especially an African story in a culture that we don't understand. And I think the other part of it was just really leaning on those guys. And, so much of it was platforming them, sharing what we felt like they had decided was a way that they were healing, and just trying to stay objective, to honor their stories, to check in with them, and to not make it about us, but really to keep it centered on them and the message that they had communicated to us they wanted to share with the world, a message that we also aligned with and felt really connected to, and also just genuinely felt inspired by their message. And so that was kind of the, as McKenzie's saying, that was kind of the hope and the goal. And, we can only hope that we accomplish that, and it continues. This isn't a stuck film. It's like, it's something that asks something of us, to think about what is that best next step that each of us can take when it comes to the thing that stops us or stumps us from believing we have something to offer the world. And we keep coming back to this word creativity. It really is just this idea that there's something that doesn't exist in the world, that only you can create. Like, each of us have a uniqueness to us, and our stories, our experiences shape that uniqueness. And so when you create from that place and that true essence, you're creating from your experiences, the good and the bad. And it's often the pain that allows us to create something that we could have never imagined, something more beautiful. And I think that's what happened in the case of Beyond the Beat. And this film challenged me to think about my own life, my own struggles and suffering, and how might I be able to do something that moves me in the direction of using that for good. And all the creative avenues are in play there, whether it's dance or poetry or writing or singing or even speaking. Um, there's DJ, right? Like there, we heard them all, and all of these kids had found their own portals to healing through the umbrella of creativity. And I also just don't think I had ever thought about creativity as a healing mechanism in that way. And that was so powerful, especially because this community doesn't have the support that most post-traumatic communities in the world would get. They don't have the financial support. They don't have the therapists coming in to organize these sessions, and they have a little bit of that, but very, very little. So it has been on the community to figure out how can we heal from this deeply traumatic period of our history. And the fact that in the wake of that, the youth have decided creativity is the platform they want to use to heal. It says a lot about how powerful creativity is to me.
Hmm. Yeah,
It-
I mean, if you watch the film and you stick around to Beyond the Beat, you get to see some of these kids dance, and that was some of the most dropping things I had ever seen. Was just the way these kids would dance, because they're not just dancing to dance; they're dancing to say something. They're dancing to express something. They're dancing with feelings that they want to get out into the world. And
Yeah.
it's we can both be moving our bodies, but the intention and the motivation behind why we're moving, I think, changes the movement itself. And that's why when we were like thinking of taglines for the film, it's like move and be moved was something that kept coming up for us, is because we were moved. We were moved by the story, and we wanted to capture it to move others. Um, and that was something that played so many times for us. You can think about the physical movement, and then you can think about the movement of feelings, and they go so hand in hand in this film. And the physical poses and postures and all the creative avenues are just mechanisms and outlets for those feelings, for these kids. And it was so, like you're saying, H, it was so powerful to see the ways in which they were empowering each other and the community at large.
Hmm.
That's where painting turns into fresh painting.
Oh, it's just, I was thinking about Fletch. You remember the dance they do, where, and this didn't make it in the film, but it's like they did these group dances that we couldn't capture them all, and a lot of them had licensing issues, so we couldn't actually throw them in the film. But one of them was this. It's like the Lion King Broadway song, and it's
Oh
"He
gosh,
lives in you."
we should just throw that raw clip up
Dude,
on
it's
Instagram,
like
man, because it's
every time I watch it, I literally move to tears, and it's so powerful. And to me, when I think about like dancing for something greater than dance, right? Beyond the beat, the name of the film is about how there's something more to our creativity. There's something more than the beat, than the dance, than the poetry. It's moving us towards love, towards unity, towards the things that actually bring us closer to our truth and to love. um, I mean, that song and that dance embodies that for me.
yeah, man, that was, I'm telling you, like watching some of these kids dance, I'll never look at dance the same. I'll never look at rap. I'll never look at expression. I mean, I literally came back and got a DJ board because I was so inspired by Crazy Mind. He taught me how to DJ, and that, like, we have, as humans, I think we get inspired by stories, and we get inspired by watching how other people live. And we have the power to turn on something in someone else simply by sharing. And so if you share something with someone else, it's like, oh yeah, like maybe I should get into photography. Maybe I should get into DJing. And that for me was like, yeah, I love DJing. I love music.
Well, and Crazy Mind, yeah, he's inspiring, but Obina,
That
dude,
dude's
no
got,
one can
he's
freestyle like Obina.
Like the rhythm of a viper. Yeah. Oh man, yeah. There's just some amazing kids over there. I think it was too cool too, Fletch. To feel like, yeah, maybe we're a little older than some of the youth there, but just to feel like we kind of found like the synonymous community on the other side of the world that like we would fit in if we were born in Uganda. Like there was just this common shared humanity piece that it was so easy to drop in and like connect with these kids. Uh and I don't know, that almost shocked me. I didn't know it'd feel so natural, like we've already known these people.
Well, that's the beauty of, I think, art, right? Art and movement and all these different like interests. What they do is they provide some level of like an opportunity, I think, to share, right? And I think with that sharing, um, then becomes this beautiful opportunity to create connection. And I think there is just like such a genuine exchange, right? We kept coming back to that word. This is an exchange, right? And um, yeah, that beautiful like global exchange of us sharing some ways in which or skills or things that we do and how we do things, and then them sharing certain things, like that's the most beautiful thing to me, is when you can be a teacher and student in your life and create that balance.
Absolutely. All right, so what's I mean, we talk about this larger theme. There's so much to explore in Beyond the Beat. This conversation is really just a launching pad. And we hope at the bare minimum it inspires you to go watch the film, which you can watch on Prime Video, and you can get it right now. So go and watch Beyond the Beat, because I think it'll give a lot of color to this conversation. And this larger theme, and we leave you guys with it and Beyond the Beat. Obviously, still watch the end. This doesn't ruin the end, but this theme of turning pain into purpose and actually creating through our pain. Um, what's the action step? Like, how does that get practical in people's lives?
What I would say is think about your life, think about moments in your life that you draw back to and you put in and under the category of pain, and what have you done to overcome that pain, and just spend some time reflecting, whether it be in a journal or whatever whatever you want to do to reflect. But personally, I love journaling, and that's my offering to you, is to think about some moments of your life where you would categorize them as pain, and how did you overcome them.
I think it's a simple question that you should go back to and ask yourself every time you feel like a victim. And that is, how can this pain happen for me? How can I use this pain to find my purpose and to find my mission, or to solidify my purpose and mission? And if you can seriously stop yourself in those moments that you victimize yourself and say that at the end of the day, there is accountability in attracting these things to begin with, I think you can look at Totem a Kurutan message and say, there's no reason why I shouldn't look into how my life is happening for me rather than to me.
Yeah, it's reminding me of that conversation we had, McKenzie and I remember we flew up to New York and interviewed this meditation kind of experience in Buddhism. Just amazing guy. And he talked about suffering being like a sign that's like pointing us back, right? Like it's pointing us back to our path. And it's actually showing us the way. And so there is, I mean, I'm hearing that in both of you guys, like, is there a way that I can gain a fresh perspective on what this suffering is and what it's for? And I think that is so powerful. And then from a creativity lens, like I just went back through all my notes, and I've never really considered myself a poet. Maybe the kids in Uganda helped me see myself more that way. But it's amazing how much poetry I've realized I've written the last 5 years. And I don't do it thinking like I'm a poet, I need to be a poet. I just do it because I like kind of have to. I kind of need to. It helps me get to that place where I can have a new perspective. And so what is that creative outlet for you? And if that voice is saying I'm not creative, just know that's just immediately knock it down back to the floor and say that's not true, because you are. You put on clothes this morning. You have a uniqueness to you. So what is one way in which you can express your creativity, even if it feels a little uncomfortable, and just try it. Just try it on, because I notice a lot of times the pain, even if I'm not aware of it, like the stuff that I've experienced comes out when I allow my essence to show through some creative medium, and just see what that feels like. Why not? You got nothing to lose. And if you do, we'd love to hear about it. And, our goal is to continue to make stuff that helps you guys. I think we'll take on that challenge. I hope you guys will take on that challenge with me this week. Let's continue to create through our pain.
I thought you were bringing up New York because that's where my heart was broken, but that's okay.
But it's been healed and it's found purpose.
It's been healed. It's been found.
So guys, we'll leave kind of some more stuff in the show notes regarding Beyond the Beat. Once again, it's on Amazon Prime. It's not too much money. How much is it? $2.99.
It's like $3 to rent. Yeah.
Wow. $3.
That's less than a coffee, Fletch. Maybe one shot of espresso, not two.
Maybe two. But yeah, guys, we're thinking about doing a whole like behind the scenes of it. So if you guys would want to hear more on the making of the film, you can even leave some comments below and we'll be happy to dive deeper into it. So watch the film, then leave some comments here so we know what to talk about.
Fletch, sign us off with a word, man. What's the word?
Intentionalist.
Is that a word?
Not a word. But we're gonna go with it.
Hold on.
Are you kidding?
Hold on. Let's Google this.
Intentionalist.
Yeah, like if there's a minimalist, there has to be intentionalist. Look it up.
Minimalist.
Intentionalist is a business, but I'm not seeing a literal word definition.
And on that note, later, guys. Peace.
Whoa. Wait. Pick a different word, Fletch.
Minimalist.
There's intentionalism. That's a word.
God, okay. I just feel like intentional because that's how I identify as. I identify as an intentionalist. So that's really hard to hear. That's not a word. So
intentionalism is the theory that the meaning of any text is determined by the intention of its author, whether stated or not. So that has nothing to do with, I think, what you were talking about.
Okay, I'm going to try one more word. Tell me if this is one. What about a necessary? If something's necessary, necessarialist?
Let's pick a word with maybe one or two syllables this time. Here we go.
Okay.
Ready?
3, 2, 1. Whale.
Perfect. Peace.
Hey guys, thanks for getting to the end with us. We really appreciate y'all being here. Make sure wherever you're listening to this to go rate it and share it with a friend. It really helps get the word out there about this podcast. And there's one more thing that I really want to share with you guys. Beyond the Beat, which is a film we've been working on for the last several years, is officially live on Amazon. This is a big deal for us, and we really would love to hear what you guys think about it. So go and watch Beyond the Beat. It's this story about these 3 amazing friends who started a creative arts festival in the wake of a 2-decade civil war in northern Uganda. The film explores the potential and the power of art and creativity to inspire communities and really to bring healing in our lives and in communities all around the world. We think there's a ton of value in it, and we had a blast making it. So please go check it out and let us know what you think, and we'll see you next week. Peace, y'all.